Hello.
What's up, Joe?
Hey, how you doing, Dave?
I'm doing great, man. This is your studio here.
I'm in the studio. Yes, this is my family's house. And this is where they're there gets together to rehearse and where I make
Ah,
music from time to time. I live with my wife in Red Bank, New Jersey, but
okay.
this is just about hop, skip, and a jump, 15, 20 minutes away. So
Oh, that's so cool. And it probably feels good to have a place that all the guys could call home, to come and get in the rhythm of practicing and what's coming up next, right?
yeah, we have a really nice routine, and it's always fun to get together with them and get excited for the shows. We're getting ready to play in Philadelphia in a couple weeks, so
Yeah, I saw
we were
that.
just in the studio a couple week. We were just here a couple weekends ago, and it's nice. Everybody catches up. How's everybody doing in their life? And we have lunch together and play these songs that we love. So it's always a good time.
I think that's so cool. We came to your show at the Racket in New
Yeah,
York, and it was amazing. It was
thank you.
our first time seeing you, and my wife and I were, and my son now he's 11, but we're big, big Radiohead fans, and it's been like our family band almost. And you guys did such a fantastic job. I can tell it was an all-around team effort that everybody was really all in on what they were doing there. And one thing that really stood out to me was your graciousness. You were always very like, thanks, for this Radiohead catalog. We're really appreciative that these guys made this art.
Mm.
That didn't have to happen. It told me a lot about where you guys come from, as a band and you as as the lead out there. What is it like, being in that position to be able to perform this catalog?
It's an incredibly lucky position, that we're all in, and yeah, exactly as I say, and as very grateful. You said, sort of Radiohead, sort of a family band, for you. It's obviously been there for me for a large portion of my life, or my adult life now, and I hope for it to be, the family band of my family as it grows and continues to evolve. So I have a very deep personal connection with this music. I've been an obsessive super fan, as you can tell by the posters, for a long time now. It was really nice to meet a bunch of other like-minded fellows, a bunch of other guys who also had a connection to the music. The opportunity again, yeah, we're just really lucky. Like, when we talk to folks that come to the shows and talk to them after the show, and it's, everybody's so sweet and they come up to us and say such nice things. And it's like really like we're all here for the same reasons, and I think most of the people that are in the crowd at our shows, I'd be in the crowd with, if we were seeing Radiohead together or seeing other band, that we're passionate about. So it's a really cool environment, a lot of really just deep fans of art, and yeah, so I'm incredibly lucky. And I'd imagine the other guys in the band would echo that as well.
Yeah, and I bet that everybody has their moment of when they discovered Radiohead. That's probably different for everybody and maybe at different points of their life. Like for you, was it a song or was it a moment where you were going through a life experience and then the
Yeah.
music entered or something?
Yeah.
Like, can you tell me about that moment?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a really cool time in my life, as I'm sure a lot of people who have come to the band. And such a cool thing about them is that they're such a multi-generational band. They've been around for so long now, but have touched so many people at all different points of their career, which I think is really rare. They're not just like a legacy band. They've had, really cool journeys through different periods and eras of their music. I came into the picture, so I was in college. One of the other members of There, Cory, who plays the Ed O'Brien role, who was my best friend in college, and we were roommates. And he kind of just suggested me. We were always looking for music. I came to college as a big, classic rock guitar playing kind of guy. I love, and I still do. I love. If you can see out of frame over there are posters of Jimi Hendrix and Led
Cool.
Zeppelin,
I,
because like a lot of kids that pick up the guitar and love to play guitar, you idolize the guitar heroes, and that was the kind of music I was into. Um, and I was just starting to kind of hear more what I guess you could term like art rock or alternative rock. I was getting into kind of different sounds, and we would always go to the record exchange. We went to Princeton University, so in town in Princeton, there's a really awesome record shop, music shop called the Princeton Record Exchange, and they have really great like used CDs. For like $3 you can get the best music that's ever been made.
That's awesome.
So Corey says to me, you should pick up this album. He had friends who were pretty into Radiohead. He had listened to some Radiohead. He said, pick up this CD, and it was OK Computer. And I was like, okay. And I listened to the first, 10 seconds of Airbag, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? Because I wasn't, the vocabulary was so different from like, again, bless them all, Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin and the Beatles. And, there's a through line, obviously, between different types of innovation in sound. But yeah, that just got me. And then, I think by the time I got to Let Down, which is one of my personal favorite songs, just because of everything, that's working together in that song, the beauty of the lyrics, the sound, the intricacy of the arpeggios and things like that. I was just like, wow. And I remember listening to it once. It was like winter, right before winter break, and just had this beautiful vibe to it. I had to listen to it again, and then I just got obsessed. And from there, it was like all about, discovering all the other albums and discovering all the different touch points in their story. So that was my personal experience. And the band, they're there. We're a multi-generational band ourselves, so we're all kind of different ages, different walks of life. And some of my bandmates were lucky enough to like kind of know about Radiohead as they were kind of coming out of the scene and exploding, and that's like a really cool perspective.
Yeah.
So really cool and diverse stories for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love Let Down as well. My son plays piano at a local school here, and we're in the Hudson Valley, New York.
Yeah.
And so I was dropping him off for piano lessons, and I'm like, I'm trying to work, and by the time I get my laptop open, it's like I get nothing done in the half hour. I'm like, I'm in a school of music, and I play guitar, and with my roommate from college, similar to what you were doing, probably not the
Yeah.
same level. But I started playing violin. I was like, let me see if they have a violin instructor. And I didn't want to play Mary Had a Little Lamb or anything like that. I was like,
Yeah.
can you teach me how to play Radiohead on violin? And I wanted to surprise my wife. So Let Down was the first song I learned on violin.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
it was a way of revisiting it as an older fella. I'm 43 now. Uh, Versus when I was exposed to the Radiohead when I was in school
Hmm.
through my buddy Dave Wolf. And we would just sit, he would paint and like smoke a joint or something. And he showed me that these songs had a lot of feelings and also allowed you to explore your feelings through the music. And I was
Hmm.
censored to music when I was younger, so I was just basically hungry when I got to college, and I was like, "Oh
Mm.
my God, listen to all this stuff."
Hmm.
So I was playing catch up, but Radiohead was one of those when I listened to the Bends. I couldn't stop playing it, and it's always been like a cover to cover album for me.
Yeah.
Now, for you, do you write other music outside of the music from there? Like, what's your songwriting situation like?
I do, yeah. So I've been in a number of bands, throughout the years too, in addition to some original projects, obviously some other cover projects as well too. Lately, maybe over the past like 5, 10 years, I've tried to do a lot more, self-producing of ideas that I've had over the years. So, and obviously wearing my love of Radiohead and their members' projects very deeply on my sleeve. A lot of it's electronic influenced or and the beauty of Radiohead is it introduced me to a lot of other genres of music that I came to really love very deeply, like things like trip hop and shoegaze and experimental or krautrock or things like that. So, yeah, I've been trying, to the best of my ability. I have not a serial procrastination problem, but obviously I keep myself very busy with a lot of things, and I have my irons in a lot of fires. But when I always try to find the time to, work on a song every so often and try to put it out there. So yeah, there's maybe a handful, maybe a half dozen or so songs that I put out of the last 5 years that I'm really proud of. But the goal is to kind of keep doing that, and it's a two-way funnel system where obviously a lot of the inspiration I take kind of getting to dissect Radiohead's music more deeply. I also run a YouTube channel where I've been doing covers of Radiohead's music for a long time. Helps me kind of explore those sounds. I take ideas that I find interesting and useful, and then I apply them, back there and etc. So yeah, I like to think that I'm connected to that
They're like,
artist.
yeah, they're like these incredible builders of music, and it's like they have every tool in the garage, at their disposal. And
Yeah.
you can familiarize yourself through the exploration of so many things that they've done.
Hmm.
I was thinking about you though, because you take on a task that's not very easy to do in, representing Tom York in those compositions.
Mm.
And you're amazing. You did a really fantastic job. I mean, everybody really did. And your other bandmate, Ben Shin, I thought did an
Mhm.
incredible job
Oh, yeah.
covering a very difficult aspect of Radiohead where people can get there and be like, okay, these guys are really good. Like, like this, this is really, really cool. But do you think, I thought Tom York probably has an extremely high cost of creativity because he's a little
Mhm.
bit out there sometimes, like
Mhm.
he ventures off into the deeper parts of outer space to grab this stuff. For you,
Yeah.
I think you benefit from him having already made that trip back and bringing it to you. Uh,
Yeah.
and then I was thinking about your personal creativity,
Yeah.
like if that allows you to dive into Joe, into your space when you're writing your own stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Tom York, obviously, I consider him a creative genius in so many ways, and I really admire his his lack of inhibition, just his creative. He's just when you see him on stage or when you listen to the kind of the stuff he writes, he has an uninhibited freedom and it's really awesome. I don't know if it's like I'm a very I can be a very self-conscious person and a little bit, sensitive and sometimes it's hard for me to fully be that, again, and I can't. Yeah, I always feel honored and flattered when people draw comparisons to how we're performing the songs on stage and Tom, but I know I'm not Tom and I know I, can't be and I don't, the beauty of it is not trying to be exactly, but it is inspired like, sometimes putting the shoes on a little bit, it does you kind of try to think about how they were making some of these creative decisions and him particularly um he has so many different elements to his musicianship that are really impressive. A lot of the people that don't necessarily maybe study the music as in detail as we do realize like he's a very fantastic rhythm guitar player and
Mhm.
some of the ways he chooses to voice chords or these kind of things that are very personally very inspiring to me and when I'm making music. So it's really yeah, it's been a wellspring for sure creatively to do that. But I'm always aware of I try to be aware of and it's hard not to again when I'm writing to not try to you don't want to it's hard to not go too far down that path and
Yeah.
lose identity and I'm still again as I'm sure everybody is trying to work out like what their identity is artistically but the best I can hope for is that I shoot for the stars and miss and it sounds like me
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's kind of how I'm thinking about it.
You're right on. And the one thing I saw in your performance was you could tell you were being you.
Mhm.
And it was such a genuine experience to see that where so we all left afterward and some of the chatter was I think I might like him better than Tom York in some of the performing. And I was like, well, that's a good thing. I'm like, that's it's a hard thing to do, but it made me want to explore your music outside of the there space.
Yeah,
And I was just really curious to hear you. So I would love definitely afterward, I would love to check
sure.
out some of your other music. It
Yeah.
also takes a certain person to shoulder the responsibility of playing very, at times, anxious music on
Mm.
stage and presenting it, to a crowd who wants to receive it for probably different reasons,
Mhm.
whether it's in protest of something
Mm.
or in, kind of reclaiming of a tough experience through growing
Mhm.
up. Like I feel like Radiohead covers so much
Mhm.
communally.
Yeah.
What's it like taking on an anxious presentation on sometimes for a crowd that might be receiving it for different reasons?
Yeah, I think as listeners of the music ourselves, like we're very aware of it. We're very aware that there are many different shades. Again, one of the things we really love about it, or at least I specifically love about it, is it covers a lot of emotional ground. And like you said earlier, people connect to it for different reasons about different things. It's very universal music and it covers a broad swath of experience from highs to lows, and that's what I love about it. People sometimes say it's I think I disagree very strongly with the folks that want to put a universal term on radio. Oh, Radiohead's depressing or something
All
like that.
right.
It's not, I mean, life is sometimes it's bittersweet is like the best way I can think of it. There's these beautiful moments even in the sad moments, or vice versa. The elated stuff always has a little tinge of irony or things like that. Um, so yeah, like thinking about how we treat this, like we kind of shift into different modes through different songs. There's the anxiousness, or the like kind of the ennui, or the thing about like no surprises, or that like kind of vibe. Like there's like a little bit of a discontent there. You feel that a little differently when you play it than you feel. Weird Fishes feels like triumph against adversity, or feeling like hitting a wall, but kind of, like being aware of the feelings of the songs. It kind of helps us embrace them differently. And then some songs, like, you just want to have a good time, or like feel, even if the lyrics maybe sometimes it doesn't always connect one to one with with what you can presume. And again, I can only presume, and which I think is the beautiful thing about the lyrics, is they're not all one read. They have many different interpretations. But yeah, sometimes we just want to bring an attitude to it that's a little different, or might even be different than how Radiohead themselves would present the song. Like, yeah, like song you just want to jump around and like do split kicks off the risers. Like, I don't know, like that's it's just we just go with whatever we're feeling, and try to be conscious of the crowd. That's the thing, and since which has been a blessing, and it's a double-edged sword, using in-ear monitors to hear ourselves,
Mm.
which is great for being able to hear yourselves and your bandmates and spot on accuracy. But sometimes, you want to stay connected to the crowd. So we have mics on the crowd and we're listening, and I can hear people. And that's one of my favorite things about it, is like when you start a song and it's somebody else's favorite song, and you hear somebody like really go like, oh my God, and they're telling their friend, like it gives you like an extra, push over the edge to really want to, sometimes almost too much pressure to do the song justice. But yeah,
Well,
so
you
it's great.
definitely do that. I think you nailed it with the journey of a little bit of sadness, but then also some triumph that's through
Yeah.
it. And yesterday, my 11-year-old, he got a couple bad grades last week, so I took away video games for a week. And
I've been
he
there.
yeah, he came home and slumped, and he laid in his bed, and he was so pissed off at me. And but I went up and like chatted with him for a minute, but similar to a Radiohead song, I wanted him to feel the sadness. And
Yeah.
then I wanted to also to help talk him through it. Like, hey, look, there's
Hmm.
other things going on in your day besides that. Like,
Hmm.
you can call your friend if you still want to call your friend and talk to him. But,
Hmm.
like there's other things in life that's not the only source of water,
Hmm.
that's coming for you. And so I was just thinking about that, on this
Sure.
journey too. And like,
Yeah.
let us be there. Like, part of the beauty of the music is allowing yourself to be there in that moment, knowing that it will continue. There's
Hmm.
going to be another track afterward, and
Yeah.
it'll take you through. Like when I paint, I like to be sad sometimes, and sometimes the art is just different.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
With your bandmates, did you guys audition for those roles, or did you slowly pick people up, or did you all come together all at once? How did you form the band?
There's been a sort of happy serendipity. I can't claim to have been a founding member of the band, actually. So the band, I think, formed in either 2018, I think, or
Okay.
19. At that point, I was just sort of doing my own thing, making the YouTube videos in the basement, and just kind of on a solo mission. It was Colin, our drummer, who unfortunately couldn't be here on the call today. He formed it alongside, I think, Ben was there, who you mentioned earlier, Johnny Greenwood, and a few other folks that were originally there. There was originally, the singer was a gentleman, Sean Atkinson, really lovely guy who I got to meet. Actually, so when I joined the band, it was 2022, I think, or 2021. The pandemic had kind of, had an effect on everybody and everything. And, they had to kind of retreat into, trying to figure out what the next shows were going to be. And I was kind of came in. There was life changes. Some of the members, I think one of the members had a child and was leaving. So I kind of came in to fill the Ed O'Brien role originally, um, and played a show. I think literally only one show with the guys in that format, and then Sean, moved back out west. I think he's from the West Coast, and sort of Colin had a discussion with me and said, "Well, maybe we should, would you like to sing?" And I'm like, well, I obviously very much enjoy singing Tom York. I would, well, cherish the opportunity to be able to do it with you guys and for you guys. So we did sort of reshuffle, and then I brought in, Cory, my good friend, who I knew also had this deep love for the music, connection with it. He and I had played Radiohead covers together in our college band. We had done some different projects together on that, so I knew he would have familiarity with the material, be kind of ready to go. And then, we came across a fellow just through auditions. We did auditions right when we were kind of looking for, we had to find a bassist. Um, and a fellow named Charles Baymig, who's an excellent musician. He lives now in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
He was with us for a short time, and left his mark on the band. And now currently, uh, Jay Lynch is our Colin Greenwood, our bassist for the band. Really dear friend of mine now too. And I met him through playing in cover bands on the Jersey Shore. Like it's all the beauty of music and art. And I'm sure you make these connections and you meet these people you have no idea that are gonna be important in different ways, in your life. And it all just kind of gelled together beautifully. And we've been doing this now as this iteration for a couple of years now. I think it kind of solidified in 2023. So the shows have just been getting bigger and better and more exciting, as we get more familiar with each other as musicians.
Yeah, you mentioned the crowd, and we were standing against the railing, close to the stage, and there were some folks behind us who must be travel and listen to you, and we overheard them. They're like, "These guys sound so tight tonight." Like it was really cool to hear that because it is a progression. It's not like you just drop down onto the stage and all of a sudden it's perfect every time. Like
Yeah.
there's also like probably a great sense of pride for the work that you all are putting into it and to get that kind of a response from the crowd. Like, do you allow yourselves to receive love from the fans
I,
for your accomplishments?
I think so. Again, like I said before about when people say very nice things and compare me to Tom York, I always get a little uncomfortable at first because I'm like, okay, that's a very nice thing for you to say, but I don't know if I can accept this award. But I also at the same time, just from this perspective of like the work we put into it, because everybody in the band puts a lot of, of work into it and doing the best we can to really do the music justice or really learn these tricky parts. Radiohead have given us awesome puzzles to solve by giving these like really complex layered sounds and things. So, as musicians and music nerds and music tech nerds, we're always excited when people say, "Yeah, you really nailed XYZ thing." We're like, "Thank you." Like I was like, thinking about that all week for the last 2 weeks, trying to get that drum machine sound right or something like that, So we do enjoy it, and very much appreciate that, because yeah, it is it's a labor of love, for sure.
Are there tough moments within the band? Because I know everyone's got their own personalities. You're also
Mhm.
playing very emotional music, so
Yeah,
everyone's got a little bit of baggage.
yeah,
If they like this band.
yeah.
It sounds like you have an intimacy though with one another that with respect for each other's lives and where everybody's coming
Mhm.
from. Does that help strengthen you for potential tough moments or even
Yeah.
during those hairy times?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we all have a really great deal of empathy for each other as people, and we all have gotten to know each other and each other's families, and so that just helps build a connection. And there's just a different challenge and prospect to it because we aren't composing. Obviously, famously, a lot of the conflict in bands comes from creative struggles, or because it's a very deeply personal and sticky and sometimes awkward thing to co and create music. And I'm sure as Radiohead have probably experienced, over their years.
Probably.
But we luckily get to shortcut that part and just focus on playing it. The adversity comes. It is a struggle, and sometimes like how we're practicing and people I think we all hold ourselves and we hold each other accountable, and that can be tough. And we're always trying to push each other to be better, each of us as musicians. But we all do a great deal of self critique after each show, like I missed this part, I could have done this better, and but the beauty of it, and having been lucky enough to see Radiohead multiple times, and to just like if we're taking inspiration from them, as is the kind of the mission statement, the beauty of it is they're so humanized when they play. Like we all think of them as these gods of music, and in many ways they are. But the fact that they have this playfulness, and when they make a mistake, and they just leave it in, and they do it, and or they stop, and they're like, whatever, and it happens to them, and you're like, oh, okay, like it's okay, it's acceptable. It's hard to embrace that in the moment of a show when you do really want everything to go right. You kind of want to kick yourself, but we've been learning more and more, the struggle of just like perfectionism versus just like just embrace it, just like have fun with. So what? We made a mistake, so
Yeah.
it's a good. I think it's a good life thing, just in general too. Just be okay with that, and to do it in a very public way, like just get comfortable with that feeling because it's going to happen a lot. You're not always gonna, you know, hit
Yeah.
it, exactly the way you want to, but.
I remember watching one show and Tom York stopped everything and he's like, up, live music. That's what happens in
Yeah.
live music.
Right.
Start it over,
Right.
And everyone's like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is great.
Yep.
Of course, like you said, in the moment, you're like mortified. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
am I gonna do?
Yes.
How did you gain your confidence to be a front man for a band? Were you in that same position when you were younger and you gradually built on experience, or did you get thrown into that mix? Like, what was it like when you first took on that responsibility?
It was definitely a little scary and a little daunting. Like I said, I guess as a person, I can be fairly introverted and fairly shy. Not that many famous frontmen, I think, throughout history haven't also couldn't also say the same thing. But as we know about, Tom York, at least just, he just presents a great deal of confidence and a great deal of freedom, and that's really inspiring. Easier said sometimes than done. Um, I had been playing, so I've been playing in bands for a long time. I'm used to public performance, but at the same time, and people ask, "Oh, do you get nervous?" Like, hell yeah, I get nervous every show. I'm always like a little bit like, But familiarity, obviously, having done it a bunch and been lucky to have, been in these spaces, you start to get a little bit more comfortable. You start to know what works or what doesn't to like make yourself feel a little bit more connected or feel a little bit less, strange about it. I didn't start, so I wasn't finding confidence or comfort in my voice. It has been a journey. When I originally started playing guitar, when I was kind of guitar hero guy, I wanted to, play. Uh, I was mostly, focused on playing and less about singing and performing or fronting. And then, through my high school band experiences, college band experiences, yeah, I started to sing more and started to practice that muscle. Tom York was obviously amongst all the voices that I idolize and I love, his voice and the range of it, the being comfort with being sensitive, being comfortable with the sensitivity side of it. Like not all music is just rock and singing. Sometimes it's falsetto and it's like really, it's vulnerable and you have to get comfortable with that. That really went a long way. Like learning to sing that, taught me how to be comfortable with that. But it's an ongoing process and an evolution, and every time, I still have to grapple with some of those things before I get on a stage. But it's been a great experience, for that.
When you approach your own music, do you have to almost ritualistically change something about how you approach the creative space versus how you get yourself ready to be playing for there? Because if you're playing in the same room that you're playing right now, which is where I'm
Mhm.
assuming that you do all that, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
almost like you have to have. I have a ritual when I come into my art studio that I do every time to get me in the headspace to be present, no matter what happens.
yeah.
But when you live two lives,
Yeah.
kind of like, what's that like to transition?
It feels pretty natural. It doesn't feel, I do feel there, like I said, I do think there's elements, enough overlapping elements of each, or, things that I can draw upon from each experience. I Creating my own music, it's again, there's again, the beauty of playing Radiohead's music when you don't have to make some of the difficult creative choices, they've been made for you. We do like to a little bit around the edges take our own license with some things, and that can be fun because then you can be like, well, actually, I'm going to do it this way, even though they do it this way, that kind of thing. But there's a little bit of yeah, trying to get that same calmness, and because when you're, it's like I'm sure, when you're looking at a blank canvas or when you're starting a song or you're like, a voice, you hear a lot of different voices. You hear your own, you hear people who you think would admire the art you admire. You hear the artists you admire. You hear all these different voices in your head. And so sometimes that can be hard to just be like, and I'm going to go with it. You kind of go back and forth. It's slower going. It's not as, um, yeah, I mean, and then in performing, obviously, I've been trying to create more opportunities for myself to perform. Like it's been a very introspective thing to be the original music I've been making. I've been lucky, and since the pandemic, to just kind of, you have a space, you do it, you just do it all, and it's all kind of here, and then you
Yeah.
put it out in the world, and then it's there. But performing it and I've been lucky to have a couple opportunities to actually perform it, and that is a very different headspace than performing the Radiohead again, because you're thinking differently about, like, it's your music and you're wondering how are people going to feel. I know how people will feel about about the chorus of Letdown because I kind of know how I feel about the chorus of Letdown, but I don't know about this song. I know how I feel. Like it was, every bit of art. Some people say should art be like self-indulgent or not? Like it is a little self when you make a song you like. You have to kind of like listening to it, so it is a pleasant experience to listen to it, or look at something because you made it the way you like things. So therefore, why wouldn't you kind of like to listen to it yourself? But you also it's also for other people too. So you have to wonder like how they're going to feel about it. I know how I feel about it, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean, anybody's going to feel the same way. So it's a little tricky to
It's
navigate that
it's
sometimes.
important probably as a personal growth moment for you too, because it's offering you an outlet musically that's complementing what you're doing with your bandmates at
Hmm.
the same time and giving you another platform to, it's like spinning a plant around so that it
Hmm.
goes to the sun, it
Yeah.
doesn't always face the sun in one way. You spin it around
Right.
and then see what happens, on that transfer over.
Yeah.
Because your other bandmates aren't here right now, I wanted to just talk a little bit about them. Um,
Sure.
I think you said Jay is the bass player, right?
Yeah.
Jay
Yep.
Lynch.
Yep.
He
Jay
wa-
Lynch.
he had so much energy when he was on the stage. The guy was like 50 pounds of fireworks in a 5 pound can. And I was like, his personality shone so bright. He's out there taking pictures. And he's like pumped
Yeah.
up. And I was like, oh my God, that is so cool. It's so great having all those personalities. It's what makes it fun. I mean, I've played
Yeah.
guitar with my roommate forever, and we jam now as adults, and then our kids were playing with us recently. But everybody brings that little bit of something.
Hmm.
Can you just go through each band member and give me like a little something that stands out about them that makes you guys so great?
Of course, yeah. So yeah, like you said, Jay is kind of all of our spirit animal. Again, when he joined the band and he brought that energy, like I love that because especially when if I'm in my own head or I'm feeling, again, all the sorts of ways I might be feeling about giving a performance, I look and I see him, like I know I'm okay. Like I'm having a good, if he's having a good time, like he's the canary, like I can like he gives that energy and we all want to match it. So it all makes us all have, I think, a better show for sure. So he brings that, and also again, he's also an incredible musician and very humble too. He works really hard to practice for the shows, and it really shows. Like he's a very talented musician. So he brings
And anybody who's battle tested by the Jersey Shore circuit, they're
right.
very reliable.
Yep, yep. Like he knows that I know that experience of, when you play in bars, you play in bands, you got to learn a bunch of like he was so up to the task and he just brings like such a curiosity and like genuine passion for like he wasn't of the members of the band, he was the least familiar with Radiohead's music when he joined. He was just kind of like, "Oh, I've heard some Radiohead, I'm interested." But then like he knows Colin Greenwood now, I feel like again, better than any of us. Like he's just like so deeply, he's like when he made this just move or these notes, like he just talks about the music in a way he really took full ownership over it, which is incredible. Cory, obviously I have such a deep connection with. Like we share so many similar reference points and senses of humor, and like we both, I think, approach like we see the humor and the fun in the shows a lot in a lot the same way. And like he's kind of like my sidekick, and like on stage if we're just like making quips or doing crazy stuff, he's kind of right there with me. um he also has the benefit of just being so familiar, with the. I mean, again, we all are in different ways, but he's a really deep Radiohead fan and a really big fan of what Ed brings to the band. So he really embodies that. He's always up to the challenge and like a task. Like we, both him and Ben, because Johnny and Ed get these like very insane assignments sometimes of like what they have to do on stage to recreate a sound. So he's like right there. If I give him, I'd be like, you got to trigger this loop right here and do this. Like sometimes I'm like planning out the heist for the A team. I'm like telling him like you're gonna go and you're gonna do this and you're gonna and he's like, you got it, Sarge. Like I'm there. So he's really great with that. Which then goes without saying. Ben, I God love Ben. I give him a pile of instruments and things to have on his side of the stage. I'm like, you got to play this, owned Martineau, and now you also got to trigger this,
And he's so
drum
good.
sampler.
And
Yeah,
he was so clean, and it takes a little bit of composure to move from instrument to instrument too, in a very fluid like manner. Like he was just moving like music,
yeah.
like water, moving like water through that area of the stage.
very graceful, like in what he does,
Yeah.
like just again, he's got so much on his plate to manage, but he does so well with all of it. And I love seeing when I see it similar to Jay, like when I see him having a good time and like really like feeling it, it warms my heart. It's really awesome to see, because Johnny gets these really big moments, in the songs, some of these solos, some of these things. And when I see him like whacking the snare drum for Bloom, or the guitar for there, I'm like, yeah, like like it's awesome to hear that in your monitors and to see it happen. So he's a consummate musician. He's been an instrument builder. He's a just like deeply, as like I feel I am, just like deeply into music and music technology, and so like that's awesome to have a kindred spirit there, with that. And Colin, on drums, he's the guy. He brought this all together, and he does an excellent job promoting us and helping us book shows. And he has like, the band is his baby. He loves this band, and he loves, playing with all of us. So we can all feel it, like he's a really great, he really wants us all to have a voice and like the way he, talks about the creative direction of the band, or thinking about like how we want to play shows, like it's a really great, energy, and kind of bringing that, to the table. So, which you would, again, this situation is unique versus other bands, like I said, versus a different type of creativity, but it really goes a long way, to fostering that environment. And making it fun. Like we have a text thread, and that he and I and everybody chimes into, and like we'll share just things from life, or we'll share like funny music memes, or we'll share like it means a lot to have just kind of friends out there that are, we're all kind of doing the same thing. We have a shared experience, but we also have different experiences. So
Yeah,
yeah.
he's a really cool guy and very available. It feels like
Hmm.
even just reaching out and chatting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And do you guys have a goal together? Is it kind of show to show? Is it
Hmm.
to just keep playing the music as good as you can?
Hmm.
Is it playing it as long as you can? What's kind of like your feeling?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's like as we've been evolving and feeling it out, and like we've been lucky that, some of the venues we're playing, like the size of the venue, like we're excited to, maybe grow. We've built a very nice, presence and group of fans and friends in a few key markets that are really important to us, Boston and New York and Philadelphia. We're kind of an East Coast. We have dreams of going to the West Coast, or dreams of going even to the UK, or like we would love to take the show on the road at some point. Like that's a longer term goal or dream of ours. Again, just trying to manage the logistics of each of our own family lives and travel and stuff like that. That makes it hard. Like that's our main challenge. Is we unfortunately can't be the kind of band, we would, that we could play a show every weekend, or we could do a tour kind of thing. We play, a half dozen to, 8 or 9 shows a year, really realistically, to put the amount of effort we have to put into them and promoting them and things like that too. So the goal would really just to be to keep doing what we're doing, do it better, so again, keep getting better, keep getting better with the music, taking on different challenges, different parts of the discography. We've been broadening our songbook as much as we can, learning as many Radiohead songs as we can feasibly play songs that they don't play
Hmm.
songs that they do play, but differently, et cetera, et cetera. So there's all those types of challenges we can do. And then it's really just about, yeah. So we're excited. Like this venue in Philadelphia is one of the biggest we've played so far. It's a new one for us in that market. So that's like an exciting new challenge, to see how that goes. And then yeah, extending to other places we haven't played, is sort of how we're looking at it. And then the where does it go, and like what does it look like in 5 or 10 years? I mean, I don't think any of us rightfully know, but everybody's kind of expressed their own, like we're all so passionate, like we want to be doing it as long as we can, and we're all in different stages of life. So some of the members of the band might be, thinking about, doing something different, in a few years. And Corey and I are on the younger side. We're probably good to go for a while, but it all depends, and life
Yeah.
happens, and we're all, with families and kids and stuff like that too. So I'm just as much as I can be for every show that we play. Every show we play is a gift to me, and it's like so exciting, and I never take it for granted. So I just like try to enjoy each one, like kind of as you said, like as it comes, and make that the best show I've ever had. And then if it, didn't happen tomorrow, I would be very sad, but I would also know that I could go out on a good note, with it. So
Yeah,
that's kind of how
I
I see
think
it.
that's important, and we touched on it a little bit earlier with the cost of creativity. Like, I
Yeah.
would be a very different painter if I didn't take care of my wife and son every
Right.
day and just hid in the basement painting.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
at what cost? I like the
Yeah.
balance. I like to know that I
Right.
can have a little bit of both, and maybe it's more of a long-term play
Hmm.
versus like I have to just be so, immersed in what's going on.
Hmm.
So I appreciate that, and I think that that shines through with how you guys played. There wasn't a rush to get anywhere because you
Hmm.
were great right where you were, and it
Hmm.
sounded like, you're continuing to grow, uh,
Yeah.
in that regard.
Yeah, well, let me ask. I mean, you have such a diverse and just kind of, looking through your website and the portfolio of things you've done, like a diverse creativity and a diverse set of, missions and things. How do you balance all that with, family? I'm imagine it's difficult, but like, the balance between art and service and your work and your family. Like, how is that for you?
It's a learned experience because at one time my mother always said I went all or nothing, and I that has how my brain worked. So when I started something, I
Yeah.
gave it 1 billion%.
Hmm.
And then I realized that that could lead to an unhealthy place for me,
Mm.
even when it's doing something good.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
there's giver's fatigue. You can give too
Yeah.
much because
Yeah.
if you're taking away from your own battery and not recharging,
Hmm.
then that can come at a great cost too. And so I think when I approach things now, I look at how they fit into the puzzle of my life. So I'll write my name on a board and then I'll make little arms coming off of it as to what I'm doing at that moment. Like you said, author, speaker,
Hmm.
writer, philanthropy, all that stuff. And if I see too many bubbles coming off of my name,
Hmm.
I know that I have to choose something to
Hmm.
let go of because
Yeah.
I think of my son as a priority and my wife as a priority. And
Hmm.
then I also want to be able to, like you said, be in the moment, but give as long as I can and do whatever kind of comes my way.
Hmm.
So I also just approach things, whatever's been presented to me on that day or that week, that's what I listen to.
Hmm.
And even this, like starting this show, I started it a
Hmm.
couple months ago. I
Hmm.
never thought about doing this. My wife like sends me out like a puppy dog to go play. She's like, "You need to go do this thing."
Uh,
I'm like Ben a little bit, and that I think my
mhm.
brain is wired that I need like 20 instruments in front of me, and I can
Yeah.
move a little bit around them, where I have to go.
Hmm.
So I think about that. I'm also probably at halftime of my life.
Hmm.
And how do I want to spend the remainder of those days and making people happy, seeing some positive change around
Hmm.
me, making beautiful art, being a good husband and a father. Those are some of the top ones I think on that.
That's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I rarely get asked questions during the interview. That was a really good question.
No, yeah, it's just yeah, learning more about you. It's like it's cool and it's always great. Like through this band has introduced me to so many cool people and yeah,
That's
always
awesome.
always curious to know. Yeah.
Thank you. One thing I think about, like, uh, about being in the moment, like at your show, I closed my eyes and listened to what was going on around me without any distraction of what was in front of me.
Hmm.
And I'm choosing more moments like that.
Hmm.
And I think Radiohead's popular for that. Like I love
Hmm.
watching the small club performances.
Yeah.
Nobody's phones are out.
Yeah.
People are in that moment. They fought so hard to get into that room
Hmm.
to simply close their eyes and be there.
Yeah.
And when I did that at your show, I should say thank you to all of you, to your band, because you gave me a moment that I won't forget. And it wasn't one that I saw, it's one that I felt. And it was
That's
really, really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, as somebody who's, probably been in the crowd like that, like I said, at a Radiohead show or felt that it's a very spiritual thing. And if we can give people that feeling, like that's the biggest compliment in the world. That's, again, I love again the technical aspect of the music or the accuracy or the sound, like that's all very, dear to my heart as well too. But just the feeling, I know what that feels like. So if somebody else felt that, that's incredible. Yeah, really
Yeah.
great.
And I look forward to having more moments like that at your shows.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to put up the information for the Philly show to try and we'll push it out to our network and try and if we have any friends and family down there to come out and support you guys. And
Excellent.
then is there anything else that you wanted to contribute and let us know about and kick it to us?
I think, that's what's coming up. Union transfer March 28th. I'm sure you'll have that fly up. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, just stay tuned. And I'm also working on a little bit of a music tech project, an instrument. Ben has been my guinea pig at the shows, but I'm hoping to release an instrument in the next couple months that is a sort of a modern take on the On Martineau, which is the old French electronic instrument that Johnny Greenwood uses. So I've been having a lot of fun kind of diving into that side of things. It's a different part of my brain, I guess, too. But
Okay.
hopefully more information to come on that too, and I'll share. That's the company is called Idiotech Devices. So that
Cool.
yeah,
We maybe once things get put into the universe, I would love to do a follow-up with you and talk about that
absolutely.
and to
Yeah,
see what the response has been and all that would be a ton of fun.
sure.
Um, Thank you so much for your time. I know it's valuable. Thanks for all the art you guys are putting into the world. We're big fans of your band,
Oh,
and we look forward to seeing more shows. And before I let you go, we have a lot of young musicians that we work with out of our gallery. So we had an art opening this past weekend, and we had all the students from the New York School of Music here in the Hudson Valley come and perform at the gallery. So it gives them a chance to play live and play with each other, and everything from an a cappella group to guitarists and pianists and singers, beautiful. And they're all young kids, some of them from 11 years old and up. So it's really, really cool. What advice would you have with your extensive music career at somebody who's young and creating that might be struggling a little bit,
mhm.
whether in life or with their music? What's a little nugget of wisdom that you can pass on to somebody regarding the creative process and music?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to not sound trite when saying this, but please stick with it. Again, for those, there's a challenge not only in the prospect, there's a difficulty and a learning curve with just becoming a musician to begin with, and whatever your instrument is, or, feeling discouragement from, not getting to, and nobody's truly a master, even the masters, right? But there's just that it has been such an important companion in my life, like having the ability to express yourself through an instrument, whatever that instrument is such an important thing, I think, for people. So it's really awesome. There's no better time, to start doing it and to keep doing it because no matter what, your life has in store for you, like it can always be there. And it really has been for me in such a big way. So, and it's just fun, I mean, it's just really fun to do. So, yeah, keep with it, and that's incredible. Yeah.
Beautifully said, my friend.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Good luck in a couple weeks, and we'll be
Thank
in
you.
touch with you guys. And best to your bandmates, and great love and appreciation for them and all that they bring to the table. And
Thanks.
we look forward to following your guys' journey.
Thank you so much, Dave. It was
All right.
great talking to you, and I'll
Cool.
send my best to them and look forward to talking soon.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you have a friend up in the Hudson Valley anytime.
All right.
All
Awesome.
right. Peace, brother.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.